So Ridvan uploaded a video where he interviewed a guy called Apostate Imam, and Ridvan exposed him for being a fraudster, a liar. Very quickly, the Imam claimed to be a scholar. He claimed to have studied under Dr. Zakir Naik, yet couldn't provide the qualification he studied. Ridvan claims that's deception, and he's a liar, and he's exposed because he claimed to be something that he's not. I'm going to show you Ridvan's pinned comment in a second. It'll come up as I'm speaking, where you can see his clarifications. But why did Ridvan upload this video to begin with? It wasn't because he has a value for honesty and integrity. It's because he's very clever. I'll give you that, Ridvan, you're clever. Why is he clever? Because he knows if he uploads a video like this, his fans and people will sit there and say, wow, Ridvan has so much integrity. Look at him exposing a guy, an ex-Muslim, in the name of truth and honesty. And if you read the comments on his video, you have his fans. Some people are praising him for his honesty, for his integrity. So Ridvan can then use this and say, how am I dishonest? How am I lacking in integrity when I exposed Apostate Imam? Don't be deceived and don't fall for this act by Ridvan. In this video though, I'm going to focus on Ridvan's hypocrisy. Now, somebody commented, and you're going to see the comment on screen. Somebody said that is what separates you from Muslims. You never rely on lies and deception, just stating Quran, Hadith and reporting incidents. And then a Muslim called Mukarram replied, basically saying that Ridvan's a liar and he's been shown to be a liar again and again. Now Ridvan replied to that, and Ridvan said that, give me one example of where I have lied. You have his fans too, above and below, saying that Ridvan hasn't lied. Look at the bottom one. You said he has been shown to lie over and over. Easily said, now prove it. Show us these lies. So in this video, I'm going to show you evidence of how he is a liar, how he is ignorant, and how he is a fraudster, a scammer. There will be links in the description and information in the description, so refer to that. Without further ado, let's actually get into this video.
I have read the Quran more than 3 times. I studied the Hadith thoroughly. I studied Islam thoroughly. I studied basically everything about Islam. I can carefully say that I know more than 85% of all Muslims about Islam. I practiced Islam very, very strictly. I studied it very diligently. I read basically everything that you're supposed to probably study as a Muslim, and that most people don't study.
So as you just watched, Ridvan said, or at least he tried to word it this way, that he knows more about Islam than 85% of all Muslims. Ridvan also said that he's read everything you're supposed to. However, this video is a couple of years old. He has since changed his opinion, his stance, his view. Shout out to Mitro, who interacted with him. And look at what he replied. Look at what Apostate Prophet replied to Mitro. After Mitro said to him, you said you know more than 85% of all Muslims. Ridvan said, well, I do, but I would say it's more than 90% now. There are around 1.8 billion Muslims out there in the world, and Ridvan is claiming that he knows more about Islam than 1.62 billion people. However, Ridvan has no qualifications in Islam. Ridvan is devoid of intellect. Ridvan's proficiency in the Arabic language is horrible. Now I'm going to show you how he is a liar. We're going to go through some of the things that Ridvan has said, and I'll demonstrate to you how he's a fraudster. A man who claims that he knows more about Islam than 90% of all Muslims makes very few mistakes, hardly any at all, and he shouldn't mess up basics. And if he's quoting somebody's opinion, he shouldn't even mess that up. So, let's get into some examples.
I want to share experience, information, and my perspective on things on this channel. I want to do factual criticism. Now, there are many people online who do this, who decide to build an account about Islam, to post things about Islam. But to be very honest, I see a lot of misinformation there. I wouldn't have a problem with that if everything was just about making Islam bad. But that's not what this is about. Because if someone who doesn't agree with you comes to you, listens to what you say, and you say them totally false, totally wrong things, and this person goes through some fact checking, then this person won't believe you anymore. He won't trust you anymore. I can't fucking talk Arabic fluently. Here, you got it. I say it, okay? This hadith was written by an 11th century man called Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi. On top of that, major Islamic scholars that people still trust today, like Ibn Kathir, have pointed out that al-Baghdadi's work is highly doubted and that it shouldn't be taken as a reliable source.
I'm watching this clip and I'm thinking to myself, there's something wrong here. I know that Ibn Kathir does not say that about Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi. So I look it up. And this is what I find. Tariq Baghdad by Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi is one of the greatest books in Islamic history. SubhanAllah, so it's the exact opposite. Yeah, maybe Ridwan made a mistake here.
Farid is actually wrong here. Ridwan didn't make a mistake. This is an example of clear-cut lies and ignorance. Why? Because how can a man who sits there and claims that he knows more than 85% of all Muslims about Islam, now 90%, how can a man who sits there and says he's read everything you're supposed to, even the stuff that most people don't study, he's read, he's looked at? How can a man say all that, claim all that, yet mess up quoting an opinion of a scholar? And not just mess up minor, he messed up literally giving the exact opposite of what Ibn Kathir actually says. The exact opposite. Ibn Kathir says good things. Ridwan said that Ibn Kathir said bad things. A man who claims to be intellectually competent like Ridwan does, by saying he knows more than 85% of all Muslims, that he's read everything you're supposed to, even the stuff that most people don't study, don't read, will not make a mistake like that. It doesn't make any sense. There's a contradiction. Now, some of his fans, the ones who live so far up his backside, they won't care about this. Even if Ridwan literally came out and was honest and said he's a liar, he's lied many times, they would still support him. But surely there is one fan out there of AP who can see through his rubbish, who can see the contradiction between claiming what he's claimed in regards to what he's read and how much knowledge he possesses, and then messing up an opinion, quoting an opinion of a scholar from a book. How can he mess up that bad? This is an example of a lie from Ridwan and an example of his ignorance. Now let's go and show you more examples.
For those that don't know, Dr. Craig made a tweet about the Golden Rule. Ridwan rejected this and said it didn't exist in Islam. Naturally, I responded with a screenshot of the hadith. Unsurprisingly, Ridwan rejected the clear evidence. This led to a lot of people calling him out for refusing to admit that he is wrong. Ridwan could not take it. This video is a dedication to the comrades that have fallen in battle.
So last year, Ridwan opened up a GoFundMe to raise money for his mysterious illness, which he claimed he was dying from. As you can see, this is a GoFundMe page. He's since changed part of this, but look at the YouTube video. It says, "Am I dying?" and he's pulling a face. It's, you know, why are you trying so hard to... I mean, who falls for that? People who donated over 10,000 fell for that. Oh, I can't believe it. I'm lost for words. I'm lost for words. Anyway, when people are ill and they're raising money on GoFundMe, they tend to provide evidence such as scans, x-rays, a blood report in Ridwan's case because he claimed it was blood related. In his YouTube video, he basically said, oh, I've got these marks on my skin. That doesn't prove anything. That does not prove anything. He went to the hospital. He went to these places. You should be able to provide evidence from the doctors themselves stating your illness, stating your problem. You should be able to provide evidence of the medical bill and how much it costs, censoring out any sensitive information, as well as the doctor, the hospital he's been going to, so people can verify he's being truthful. That is what people do who actually want money and are honest with what they are claiming the money will be used for. Ridvan did none of that. Does that not bother you, AP fans? Also, let's not forget you changed the donation amount from 10,000 to 20,000 before going back down to 10,000 again. How can you trust him also when I confronted him about his GoFundMe? I said, you're scamming people, you're not providing any proof. And how does he respond? He blocks me. I didn't swear at him. I wasn't rude. I simply made the claim, made the point that Ridvan, you're scamming people. For your GoFundMe, you're not providing any evidence of your illness. And he responds by blocking. How suspicious does that look? And finally, the GoFundMe is still open today. Why is it open when the last time he gave an update was February 2021, where he basically said the medical bills have been paid, mostly covered by his insurance, and 10,000 from the donation money. Again, provided no proof of that. And by the way, that still leaves around $2,000 to $3,000. What did he do with that? He spent it on himself. We don't know what he spent it on. He claims he spent it on certain things, but how can you believe him? And why is the GoFundMe still open? Ridvan knows it's open. After he provided the update, he could have closed the GoFundMe. After all, it was raised for what? It was open for what? To raise money for his illness. Now that the bills have been paid, you don't need it anymore. Ridvan couldn't have forgotten about it. But let's say he did, okay, I'll be kind, he forgot about it. He received donations 5 months ago. After receiving those donations, he could have thought, oh well, I forgot to close it. And then he goes and closes the GoFundMe. But it's still open today. Today, it's still open. How suspicious does it look? Again, if you had a genuine illness and you needed to raise money on GoFundMe, you will provide evidence, scans, reports, the hospital you're staying at, the price, the medical bills themselves. You'll provide all of that information, and you'll even put in there, more evidence can be provided upon request, if needed. Ridvan's goals, his aims, is try to make as much money as he possibly can. I mean, he earns through YouTube, through Patreon, through Super Chats, through donations. All of that, I would estimate, around $5,000 a month. $4,000 to $5,000 a month. That is a ridiculous amount of money. And that's just from his career as the Apostate Prophet. And that's not taking into account his merch, his merchandise. Most of his fans as well are Christians and Hindus. Ridvan, if you don't care about money, I challenge you. For a month, for 2 months, make a full month where you're making videos on Christianity, where you criticize it the same way you do Islam, being hateful and derogatory. Then do the same thing for Hinduism, criticizing it in a hateful, derogatory way. And let's see how your Christian and Hindu fan base react. I guarantee they won't like it, but maybe that's what it'll take for you guys to understand how we feel. So I would say that this part of the video is an accusation that he lied about his illness. I don't think there was any illness. I think he lied about it to get as much money as he possibly can. Playing the sympathy card, oh, I'm dying, I'm dying. And I believe the fact that he blocked me when I questioned him about it. I think the fact that he provided no evidence on a GoFundMe page, and the fact that he's still accepting donations now, is all proof that he is clearly fine, and he just wanted to get as much money as he possibly could. Now, Ridvan recently condemned our good friend, the detective, for misconstruing, misrepresenting, corrupting the footage from Apostate Prophet's interview with Bar Ehrman. Now, this is not the case, and it's very clear that this is not the case if you simply watch detective's video, and you'll be able to see what he was doing. Nevertheless, the detective is actually showing instances now of how Apostate Prophet is a hypocrite, of how he misrepresents, how he misconstrues, how he corrupts footage. I'm going to show you how he misrepresents Fareed in just one video he made on him, in literally the space of a minute. To begin with though, here is Apostate Prophet's video, a clip from his video where he made a video about the detective corrupting footage. Listen to what Ridvan says.
clear proof of edited footage by Muslim apologists from my interview with Bart Ehrman, which they edited, corrupted, in order to make it look like Bart Ehrman agreed with their views. The irony here is that Muslims accuse Christians and Jews of corrupting their scripture and corrupting the past in order to falsify their own beliefs. But here we have Muslim apologists openly corrupting, editing footage for their own narratives. And this footage was shared by so many people. Let's get right into it.
Read response who said, how is it child rape when there is parental consent?
Remember, we went through this. Is it haram to bring harm to one's own child? Yes. Then, is it haram for one to enable the rape of their child? Yes. So what is this about? This is specifically talking about a historical context. Rasulullah, his society, Abu Bakr and Roman giving Aisha to the Prophet, peace be upon him, they had no issues with it. The society had no issues with it. This is not rape. In the West today, in the United States, many states will allow one to marry a child if there is parental consent. And guess what? According to US law, according to European law, it is not considered rape enablement. Simple as that. You taking a tweet and thinking that solves all your issues, I'm sorry, it doesn't. I'm still here. You still need to respond to my videos. We're going to get to that. We're going to see what he has to say about that.
Out. So Ridvan puts this on here. This is what he did as an attempt not to respond to Fareed's arguments. And because he's posted this, a lot of people have got the wrong impression of Fareed. He's clarified what he said, but obviously Ridvan, who doesn't care about being fair, didn't feel the need to tell people this. Look what he says. So he says, what I said is misconstrued. I need to make it clear that I don't approve of parents forcing their daughters into marriages. Yes, I am aware that some parents do abuse their children and enable rapists, and this is to be condemned. That being said, it is well known that Islam does not see children as the property of their parents. Parents do not have the right to sell their kids or enable their abuse. I can't believe I actually had to spell this out. So because of Ridvan doing what he did, gullible people, people who are uneducated, people who don't look and research properly, get the wrong impression of him. The fact that you guys have to continue resorting to cherry picking that as a way to try to, throw him under the bus so you don't, people don't watch his videos, says a lot about you. So what you just saw there, he deliberately misrepresented Fareed twice, once on Twitter and once in his YouTube video. And both times he gave you the wrong impression of Fareed, that Fareed's actually saying this is okay, when in reality that's not what Fareed is saying. Fareed actually replied. He actually replied to the tweet that Ridvan is showing on screen. He's replying to it. But Apostate Prophet doesn't feel the need to actually tell people he's replied. That's dishonesty, that's corruption, that's misconstruing and misrepresenting your opponent. The very same thing that you condemn people of doing to you, you're doing, and you've done for a long time. Any thoughts, Apostate Prophet fans? Any thoughts, Apostate Prophet himself? Don't feel like addressing this? Don't feel like addressing your hypocrisy and your lie? Let's continue. Now you're going to see how he actually misrepresents Fareed's videos. And if you think I am lying, if you think Fareed is lying, go and fact check. Go and watch the videos Fareed is referring to and go and see how Apostate Prophet misrepresents him.
Yes, Fareed response who said, we don't have evidence for the moon splitting because most people were asleep at night. Sleep at night. Sleep at night. Yeah.
Okay. This I've responded to fully. You take a 5-second clip from a video and you avoid all the other stuff. Here's the issue, Ridvan. When you respond to me directly, your fans are going to see how you take things out of context. Here's the video below. I'm going to link it in the description. You guys can see how he took it out of context and how I've responded to this fully. And he's misrepresenting my argument. Let's carry on.
Yes, Fareed response who said, we cannot understand what Muhammad means by the sun goes under the throne of Allah at night because it is a metaphysical matter. After saying...
If you go to my video, I clearly explain that the sun prostrating, okay, and the trees prostrating. Trees, do you see trees prostrating? That's a metaphysical matter, all right? That was how it was understood by the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, in the same way they understood the sun prostrating as a metaphysical matter. It doesn't mean the sun grows arms and legs, all right? In any case, go watch my video fully, guys. Don't let this punk take 5 seconds out of context and claim that that's a refutation. Let's carry on.
The Apostate Prophet is employing dishonest tactics. He's trying to undermine Fareed by misrepresenting him deliberately, lying about him in order to make his fans not go and watch his content. I'll explain why. He takes little clips, little segments out of Fareed's videos to make people think he's stupid, to make people laugh at Fareed. When you go and watch Fareed's videos, you actually see, well, hang on a minute. Apostate Prophet didn't say this, he didn't share this. Why is he not sharing that? Oh. And then you're forced to accept it. Although most of the fans won't, they'll still live in the lie of how the Apostate Prophet is the pinnacle of honesty, the epitome of honesty. But in reality, it's easier to believe a lie than it is to actually follow the truth, isn't it? So in summary, this section that you just watched now, you've seen instances, 3 instances of how Apostate Prophet lied about Fareed, misrepresented Fareed, misconstrued his videos, cherry-picked, took stuff out of context to make Fareed look bad, all in an attempt to undermine him. Ridwan is yet again shown and exposed to be a fraudster, a liar, a hypocrite. But still the majority of the fans of the Apostate Prophet won't care. They're so defiantly disobedient, so deaf, dumb and blind, on the path to the nar, and if you want to go there, that's your choice. I'll talk about that though more at the end of this video.
There is a joke that I made at the very beginnings of my YouTube journey in one of my old videos where I talk about the pilgrimage. I made a joke in one of those old videos where I didn't really care about what I say and all that. This is one of the most dangerous practices during the pilgrimage, because people move in large crowds quickly and aggressively and throw stones that can miss the pillars. Multiple incidents occurred in the past where the pilgrims killed each other in masses during this practice by accidentally trampling each other or hitting others with stones. In some incidents, thousands of people died. And today I feel like, okay, that was a very dumb joke. I shouldn't have done that. But the thing is, I didn't mean any harm with it. It was just a sense of dark humor. I was talking about how Muslims are very, dedicated to going on the pilgrimage, doing, certain things and dying on the path of Allah. And I said that during some pilgrimages, thousands of people died. And I said, that's what I call a sacrifice. And I found it funny in the moment. But it is kind of a dumb joke. It is kind of a silly joke.
So he lied, and I'm going to tell you how. So you saw in the video clip, he muted where he said, that's what I call a sacrifice. That's from his channel. If you don't believe me, the video on his channel is the Eid sacrifice video. Go and watch it and see for yourself. I think it's around the 8-minute mark, and you'll see how he blurred it out himself. And look at the little cringe, disgusting smile he pulled while saying it. Where is the lie, you may ask? Well, in the video with Aladdin that he's doing, the stream with Aladdin, he's saying that he's talking about dying in the way of Allah, that, it's all in the context of pilgrimage. That's a lie. You saw the video clip yourself. Did he at any point mention dying in the way of Allah? No, he did not. He said that's what I call a sacrifice. Again, the video on his channel is the Eid sacrifice. Just, talking about the sacrificing of the sheep that happens during the Hajj days. So in other words, he's equating sacrificing animals to sacrificing Muslims. He sees no difference. The caveat is, it's all a prank, bro. It's just a prank, bro. It's dark humour. He finds pleasure in deaths of Muslims. I said this in the prior video, and look, you've heard him basically say it himself. He's admitted it. He is now going to go on to say he shouldn't make a joke like this. He shouldn't have made a joke like that in the first place. But as he's saying it, you think, is he regretting it? Well, he's laughing. He's doing his little giggles and he's smiling as he's saying it. So clearly he doesn't regret it. He stands by it. And if you truly regretted saying it, Ridwan, you'd make an apology video where you'd say, this is the video that I made and this is what I said. I was wrong for saying that. And did you see Apostate Aladdin? Apostate Aladdin, when he heard Apostate Prophet's joke, Apostate Aladdin didn't like it, and he actually remarked in the stream that he didn't like what Apostate Prophet said, that it's not something to joke about. Anyway, let's continue watching the rest of this clip, and you'll see yourself and how he actually blames his culture.
And I think today I wouldn't make that joke, because I come from a culture in Germany where we just joked about all kinds of things, no matter if people are offended or not. And this was just the way we joke. I always joke about my own death and disabilities and all that stuff. But the thing is, when I'm dealing with the Muslim culture, I'm aware that making such a joke is in no way productive. It's in no way, it in no way contributes to a better mutual understanding. It's just dumb.
So he blames his culture. Instead of taking 100% ownership for what he said, he says the reason why I made a joke like this, it's my culture, but we joked about this stuff all the time. Now, I'm not familiar with German culture and Turkish culture. He's from Germany, Turkey. I'm not familiar with that culture, so I can't speak about it. But for those of you who are, Ridvan is saying that, hey, it's a common culture. You mock the deaths of pilgrims, you mock the deaths of innocent people. It's dark humour. Jokes like this are funny. Ridvan said he jokes about his own suicide and death and whatnot, which is strange because why then did you get offended when Muhammad Hijab said to kill yourself? Wasn't it all a joke, Ridvan? Apostate Prophet contradicts himself so much. And this is just the first of a few clips from the Apostate Aladdin stream that I'm going to go through. And just very quickly as well, Apostate Aladdin didn't like how Apostate Prophet made that joke. In the stream, when Apostate Prophet mentioned it, I don't know if you saw Aladdin's face, he was quite taken aback, he was shocked. He even remarked as well that I wouldn't make a joke like that. Apostate Prophet goes, oh yeah, now I see it's bad. But he's laughing as he's saying it. He said he wouldn't make a joke like that today, but he's laughing. He's smiling. What? It makes no sense. He's not sincere. He's insincere.
Jokes, especially provocative jokes from the very beginning, I would have reached a significantly smaller number of people, including Muslims, than I have so far. I think.
Was that your motivation going into it, or was that something you figured out afterwards?
No, I think I had it from the very beginning. I thought, hey, I don't want to simply sit down and be like, oh, this is this and this is this and this is that, and yeah, like I didn't want to talk this way. That's not my way anyway.
So this is something very important. They both talk about this within the stream, and they're saying that being satirical, joking, mocking, all that sort of stuff, it brings in a greater audience. Now, this video is early on the Apostate Prophet. I've already done the Apostate Aladdin, and I'm more than likely done with him. But with the Apostate Prophet, he literally just said joking is his tactic, and he did it from the very beginning. That's his priority. He cares about joking. Now you see, for somebody like him who claims he knows more than 90% of all Muslims, somebody who's learned, you'd sit there and think his videos would be thought-provoking, formal, polite, and, intellectual. But it's the exact opposite. And from Apostate Prophet himself, he says it. He's provocative on purpose. You've already heard before, he likes dark humour. He likes jokes like that. I mean, again, he finds pleasure from the deaths of Muslims dying. And on this point, this is where I'll bring in Aladdin. They both remark about how being satirical and joking, etc. is good because it brings in a greater audience. So this is what they want. They want people to watch their videos, to react to their jokes, to see their jokes. They want the people to get the feelings they feel when they hear a joke, because they know it brings in an audience, and that's their tactic to be aware of. So then how do you respond to this? Don't respond to them. And I know that might seem a bit hypocritical considering the video you're watching now is a response, but this is more than likely the last video I'm going to do on the Apostate Prophets. Listen to what Ridvan's going to say next, because you're going to see a contradiction and a lie yet again.
I like humor, I like dark humor, I like sarcasm, and a little bit of provocation. It amuses me when people do such stuff like that directed at me. I don't get offended. So.
Apus, listen, I'm telling you right in front of you. You're obviously getting.
You're not the one qualified. You're not. Imam Apus cannot make his own interpretation on context.
Fuck you.
Oh.
You cannot come here and speak to me like a little child, okay? I don't get offended. So this is how I kind of want to communicate. And I also thought it is part of all of this. I learned in the history of art and culture that satire plays a great role in provoking change within societies, within Western society. It has a great history. It has a great role. So when I engage in satire, which I really enjoy and which really comes from the bottom of my heart, I could say, I know that many people will be offended by this. Many people will not react to it in the best, nicest ways, but I will also reach a significantly higher number of people and will end up changing more people's minds and provoking more thoughts in people's minds. Maybe some people disagree with that. Maybe some people disagree with the method and with the side effects of that. But that was always my that was always my motivation, or one of my motivations all along, I would say. In the past, when I was religious, just before I left Islam, in my last years, I was very religious myself. Was involved in a robbery. It's a shame. I'm over it. I don't do such things anymore, gladly. Then I became a communist, a revolutionary communist, and even supported an illegal urban guerrilla organization, a terrorist organization in Turkey that was very active in blowing themselves up in the street. And I believed in very terrible things, things that completely contradicted with how I viewed the world 5 years before that stage, and which entirely contradicts with the way I view the world today. I had very, inhuman thoughts, very, very bad thoughts about humanity in general. I was thinking about disbelievers, about people who openly outright reject Islam, people who don't believe in religion, people who don't believe in God, people who criticize Islam. I was thinking, how can you even be nice to these people when they reject the very, the God who created them? I was thinking that we should bring back certain rules that limit the way women can reveal themselves outside, because it is detrimental to society. We should curb freedoms. We should follow the Islamic laws. And I would inform myself on these things and to really be an advocate for that stuff. Despite the fact that I was not a traditionalist, not a Salafi or anything in any way, I was rather close to Sufism and to the Hanafi way. I did have ideas in the past due to my religiosity and due to the fact that I thought thought that my belief is the absolute truth. I did have such ideas, and my perspective, my view of the world and humans outside of the folds of Islam and even within the folds of Islam was completely messed up, completely skewed.
1. You can be nice to non-Muslims. The non-Muslims who are nice to you, who don't fight you, etc. Allah says in the Quran, chapter 60, verse 8, He does not forbid you from being kind and fair to them. If you're on about people like you, then in the Quran, what does it say? When the ignorant address you, reply words of peace. That's in Surah Furqan. I think this quote is attributed to Imam Shafi'i, where he said silence is the best response to a fool. But in general, we have the concept of manners in Islam. Ridwan, you should know this, the concept of adab. We should have good manners. And I don't need to say, Ridwan, do I, about anger in Islam and how controlling your anger is key. And when I make my videos on you, this one and all the videos in the past, I am assertive. Other people may be nicer, other people may be harsher. But the fact is, what does Islam teach? And that's what you have to look at. Now, I don't know if things were different in your Sufi sect, your Naqshbandi. That's what he was a Sufi, he was a Naqshbandi. If things were different, well, I can't speak about that. That's like, you followed bid'ah when you were a Muslim. Complete bid'ah. Second thing is the women covering up part. What is wrong with that? This is just logic speaking now. If you have a woman walking down the street who's half naked, and you got a woman walking down the street who's covered, let's say not even wearing hijab, but she's just wearing modest clothing, which one is likely to draw more attention? The woman walking around half naked, or the woman walking around modestly covered? And let's say you got another woman who is in between the two, so you can see some of her, she's wearing a skirt down to her legs, so you can, but her calves are showing. She's wearing tight clothes, so her outline of her body is showing. You can see her cleavage, for example. People are more likely to look at that because it draws attention. Whereas a woman who is covered up, people are less likely to look at it. And now look, I ain't ignorant. I know that sexual assault and things like that, catcalling, happen everywhere in the globe, even in the Middle East. However, this is part of the package in Islam. What does Allah say in the Quran? He says, tell the believing men and women to lower their gaze. Okay? And even then, let's say, for example, a sexual assault occurs. There is the punishment in the Sharia for that. So let's say, for example, it's rape. Dependent on the rapist, if they were married or unmarried, the punishment will be given accordingly. Wouldn't it, Ridwan? But then again, this is the same guy, people, who thinks that a rapist who raped someone, that isn't as bad as the rapist getting lashed 100 times. Let me say that again. He thinks that a rapist getting lashed 100 times is worse than the act of rape itself. And he admitted this in a debate with Daniel Hakikuchu. Now, you heard him say, in his religious days, when he was a Muslim, he was affiliated with a terrorist organisation who were hell-bent on blowing themselves up. Where is this in Islam? Suicide is haram in Islam. You will go to the hellfire for it. He then talks about he was involved in a robbery. The guy is a criminal. You should be locked up. What is the punishment for theft in Islam, for robbery in Islam, Ridwan, in the Sharia? You get your hand chopped off. And finally, this guy who said he was learned, etc., that he's read everything you're supposed to, even stuff that many people don't study. How then did he stay a Sufi? How then did he stay a Naqshbandi? Why didn't he say, oh, this is clearly bid'ah, it's falsehood, it's batil. I am going to follow the Quran and the Sunnah with the understanding of the Prophet and the righteous predecessors. Why didn't he do that?
it's because he lied about being learned and his level of education, how much he studied in the first place. The only reason why this guy is seen as an authority on Islam is by virtue of his apostasy, and that's it.
Narrative, and you don't need to be a PhD in Islam to do that.
Yeah. I've actually changed my goal in terms of education. I don't want to give too much away from this, but I thought I have a passion about this whole thing. I've always been very interested in religion, and since it is so important, and since people look at a certain level of education in terms of in order to equate that to credibility on the matter, I thought it would be very beneficial and also personally interesting for me to pursue an education in religious studies or in something related. So I decided to shift my focus on that and to actually pursue that education, and I am on that path right now. I just don't want to as I said, give too much away from that, but I actually want to do that, and at some point I want to look back and say, hey guys, what now?
Yeah. Well, next you have to learn Quraishi Arabic and Quraishi dialect. I'm actually very interested. Like, I wish I had the liberty and the time. And
so only now is he pursuing education in religious studies. How embarrassing is that? I did religious studies when I was, how old was I now? Like 15 years old. I'm at school, and I did very well in it, actually. I got an A in it, top grade, or the one below the top grade. So does that mean that at the age of 14, 15, I was more competent than Ridvan in religious studies? Because I actually have a qualification. Let's wind back a second. The guy said at one stage in his life he knows more than 85% of all Muslims about Islam. Now he's saying he knows more than 90% of all Muslims about Islam. You've already seen this in the video. How then can he sit there and say that, as well as he's read everything you're supposed to, even the things that most people don't study he's looked at? But he has 0 qualifications. It makes no sense at all. So in this section, I'm going to demonstrate to you how AP doesn't care about the Uyghur genocide, how he actually undermines it. And I will demonstrate to you this with proof. Now, he uploaded a video on his channel at the beginning of December called I Condemn the Uyghur Genocide. Now, you look at that video title, on the face of it you think he condemns it. He then says at the end that what happens to apostates and critics is worse than what happens to the Uyghurs. He also uses a clip from my video without mentioning my channel name, but we'll get into that in a later section, inshallah. For now, let's just focus on his views and opinions on the Uyghur genocide.
Recently, certain Muslim apologists have accused me of celebrating or mocking the killing of Uyghur Muslims in China, which is unthinkable. That is completely irreconcilable with how I speak, how I think, and all the things that I have said in the past.
Multiple incidents occurred in the past where the pilgrims killed each other in masses during this practice by accidentally trampling each other or hitting others with stones. In some incidents, thousands of people died. About how Muslims are very dedicated to going on the pilgrimage, doing certain things and dying on the path of Allah. And I said that during some pilgrimages thousands of people died, and I said that's what I call a sacrifice.
I think, and all the things that I have said in the past, including declaring that I don't hate Muslims, that I find it dumb to hate people based on their religious ideas, no matter how terrible those ideas are, and so on. That leads back to one specific Twitter thread in which I apparently said, I'm sure you're enjoying what's going on in China. In which I apparently said, I'm sure you're enjoying what's going on in China. In China, you should dance to it. What is happening
in that tweet is not that I'm mocking the deaths of the Uyghur people in China or other minorities. I'm making a comparison to call out someone's hypocrisy. The full thread goes as follows. Jordan Peterson announces that he just had a talk with Mohammed Hijab. I ask him, did you try to vet this guest and see if he's suitable for a discussion? Have you looked into this, for example? And then I post screenshots of Mohammed Hijab saying terrible things like telling me to commit suicide, that anti-Muslim women want to be raped, and the whole golden shower deal. A Muslim then says, lol, because it's you, it can be justified. I then say, for example, rape, suicide incitement, and targeted harassment. Can they all be justified because it is someone you don't like? Be more specific, please. This is very informative. This guy came in and said, you idiot. He was exemplifying the stupidity of your worldview and how those things are not wrong according to your beliefs. I then said, that is not what he was doing. That is not how morality works anywhere. And third, I wish to also do to you and your family the things that are not morally wrong to do to the enemies of Islam and apostates according to Islamic law. I'm sure we can come to an agreement. I think it's very obvious, it's very clear that I'm trying to present a hypothetical to call out the hypocrisy and to do what this guy thinks Mohammed Hijab did to me, to say terrible things because he thinks those are in alignment with my views. The response was, 1, that's exactly what he's doing, 2, yes it does, 3, too bad. However, we can do that to you. And as I saw that, I thought, yeah, I'm sure you are enjoying what's going on in China, you should dance to it. Looking at the context, what did I do here? Did I mock the deaths of the minorities in China? Did I make fun of it? Did I celebrate it? I did use sarcasm, I did mock something, but definitely not the deaths of innocent people. What I did mock is the morals, the perspective, the attitude of people like this commenter here.
On a side note, isn't it hilarious how Ridvan is saying, look at the context, look at the tweets from the beginning, then you will see what I mean. By the way, that doesn't help his case, but I'll get into that later. But look how he's talking about context. But when we Muslims say, look at the wider context, when people try to bring arguments against Islam, when we say, look at the context, look at the story, don't just quote that verse, look at that, don't just quote that hadith, look at that, we get laughed at, we're ridiculed. People don't take us seriously. Yet these same people who ridicule Muslims have no problem when Ridvan does it. And Ridvan himself has no issue with it. He does stuff that suits his agenda. It's very important you guys see that, although most of you probably already do. So that is an example of the hypocrisy of Ridvan as well as his fan base. Going back to the topic of this section, Ridvan saying look at the context doesn't help his case. You are still bringing up the Uyghur genocide and using it sarcastically to make a point. Whether you're saying you're not sarcastically mocking it is besides the point. You're saying that what's implied and what your tweet suggests is the exact opposite. There was no need there to bring up the Uyghur genocide at all, yet he chose willingly to bring it up, and you think he'd learnt from his lesson. But have a look at this tweet just 10 days later. Look how he equates apostasy and blasphemy to what's happening to the Uyghurs. And this isn't the first time he's done this, he actually does it in the video. And you'll see at the end, he actually thinks that what happens to the ex-Muslims, etc. is worse than what's happening to the Uyghurs. I mean, the guy is a vile human being. If he truly condemned the Uyghur genocide, he would simply make a video where he doesn't speak anything about apostasy. He doesn't speak anything about blasphemy or the Sharia. He simply comes out and he's affirmative and he's saying, I condemn what is happening to the Uyghurs. This is what's happening to them. This is proof that's what's happening to them. And something needs to be done to stop the oppression. And I am against it wholeheartedly. Instead, what does Ridvan do? Oh, apostasy is worse, blasphemy is worse, the Sharia is worse. And you're going to see now how he's using words like apparently and allegedly to describe what's happening to the Uyghurs. In other words, he's saying this stuff might actually not be happening.
I condemn the oppression of people, no matter who they are. I condemn the idea that people should be oppressed and forcibly re-educated and kidnapped for their religious or ethnic identities, because that certainly will not solve the problem. But the issue is, I also condemn what China apparently does. I also condemn what China apparently does and what many other states, many of them Islamic, do. And I also condemn the treatment of apostates from Islam, their torture and execution and expulsion. Which is why I have the basic decency of condemning China for a persecution, for an oppression that is apparently being done, when this oppression of Uyghur Muslims in China is not even remotely as harsh as the oppression of apostates and critics of Islam under an ideal Islamic state. Those people would be ruthlessly, without forgiveness, exterminated, killed, executed, or forced to return or convert to Islam. Whereas in China, we have an alleged cultural genocide, where people are allegedly taken to certain camps and re-educated under harsh circumstances in order to think a different way and become loyal ideologues of the communist Chinese regime. As harsh as it is, I'm sorry, the treatment of apostates and critics of Islam and of polytheists and maybe even of Jews and Christians in an ideal Islamic state is harsher. If you support Islamic laws and if you support the treatment of apostates and of critics, then you shouldn't condemn people, call out people, insult people for their views on the Chinese treatment of Uyghur Muslims and other minorities.
In regards to apostasy, I'm going to address that in the next section. For now, though, the focus of this section is AP's thoughts on the Uyghur genocide. Now, he says he condemns it, but his words and his actions speak different. For example, he uses words like apparently and allegedly. These words have various connotations, and, you know, when you hear the word allegedly and you hear the word apparently, you think it's contentious. It might have happened, it might not have happened. But when he speaks about what Islamic countries do to apostates, he's affirmative. He says do. He's not saying what they allegedly do, what they apparently do. No, he's affirming it. The aim of his video is to basically push the Uyghur genocide to a side and say, oh yeah, what's happening is bad, but what's happening to people like me is worse. Like it's a competition. I mean, look how vile and despicable this person is. Going back to the words he used, allegedly and apparently, you're undermining all the testimonies of the Uyghurs who are saying what's happened to them. And you don't care, do you? You disregard it. You completely disregard it. Do you want to see some footage, Ridvan? And what do you guys reckon the following footage would make Ridvan feel? I mean, he finds pleasure and he laughs at mocking deaths of innocent Muslims passing away on Hajj. So this is going to be another joke to him, isn't it? You disgusting, despicable human being.
Assalamualaikum, Sheikh. I don't really want to give, or I can't give my name. I'm speaking on behalf of my sisters in East Turkestan, where we are being persecuted in China. Maybe you might have heard of it. There are some questions we need help. I don't know where I've got to turn to, so I thought that I'll call you. I have a question to ask. It's not Islamically, I know, but I need to ask you this question. Because, what can I say now? I will need a fatwa, a ruling from you, please. The reason being, we are being forced to marry, sleep with atheist, non-Muslim Han men. This is part of the government's control. They are trying to take away our ethnicity from the area, from our homes and our lands. We need a ruling, please. I want to know, please. I know it's a big thing to ask, but I need to know. It is haram, I know about this in Islam, but I still need to know from your fatwa, your ruling. Can we commit suicide, please?
So Ridvan, does that make you feel anything? Look, there's footage you can see as well. You can find it online, and I can't share it in this video because it'll get taken down. It'll violate YouTube community guidelines. But you can see literal stuff that's happening to them. There's a video I saw from a guy who actually managed to film the outside of the camps. And you can tell from this video he's quite panicked, he's quite flustered. Speaking Chinese. And it sounds like he's trying not to be caught. And he's filming outside of these camps. These random camps in the middle of nowhere. And you're speaking about, apparently, allegedly. This has been going on for years. It's clear that it's actually happening. You actually have testimonies from people. People saying it's happening. I saw somewhere on Twitter that a guy, he's in Morocco right now. I think his name's like Irfan Hussein. He's a Uyghur. And he's facing deportation. And obviously there's a protest to not get him deported, because what does it mean if he goes back? The Chinese government are alleging that he's a terrorist, provided no evidence whatsoever, just saying he's a terrorist, so they want him back. What are they going to do to him, Ridvan? They're going to put him in these detention centres, and you know what they do? They can't fast Ramadan. They force feed them pork and alcohol. You know Muslims can't do this, yet they're forced to do it. The women are forced to marry the non-Muslim men. Go look at proper news stations. You've got Channel 4, you've got BBC, and literally last week Sky News have said over here, look, China guilty of committing genocide against the Uyghur people, tribunal finds. And although I do disagree slightly with what Sir Geoffrey said in regards to how there's no evidence of mass killings, I think they are being killed, and testimonies prove that. But look at what he says, that the policies in Xinjiang amount to genocide. And you want more proof that Ridvan doesn't really care about this genocide? You know, when Mohammed Hijab took his shirt off at the Uyghur protest, Ridvan made a community post, not really focusing on a genocide, focusing on how Mohammed Hijab took his shirt off. You know, let's ignore all the powerful speeches that Hijab made, like how the Uyghur man afterward hugged him and cried in his arms. What about Jordan M's speech, Hamza's speech, all these people who made nice speeches, all the people out there protesting against the clear genocide that's happening to these innocent Uyghurs? Ridvan focuses on how Mohammed Hijab took his shirt off. And Ridvan doing this just shows how obsessed he is with Mohammed Hijab. He's trying to make Mohammed Hijab look bad at any cost, including undermining the Uyghur genocide. So in summary, there is clear proof out there that what's happening to the Uyghurs is genocide. There is proof they're being tortured and women are being raped, they're force-fed alcohol, etc. Mosques, some of them are being destroyed. I mean, there was footage I saw the other day about a restaurant, a Floor's restaurant, just covered in Quran verses. There's a clear oppression happening. Yet Ridvan doesn't care about it. He undermines it by first of all equating it to apostasy and blasphemy. He just can't keep his mouth shut. He's crying so much about apostasy and blasphemy and the Sharia. And he also uses words like allegedly and apparently. That and the fact he's mocked Hajj pilgrims dying, innocent Muslims dying, and then stating it's just a joke, it's dark humour. It's all proof that this guy is just a vile human being. And he, like I said many videos ago, he finds pleasure in Muslims' discomfort and their death. And that's evident. I challenge Ridvan to come out and admit on his channel he made a joke in the Eid sacrifice video where he equated animals being sacrificed to Muslims dying on Hajj and said he mocked the deaths of Hajj pilgrims, said he found it was a joke and that he condemns it wholeheartedly. And don't mention anything about the Sharia apostasy. Just come out, admit your mistakes and say you did this. Be honest. Go on, Ridvan, be honest. You try to act like you're a voice of truth, a voice of reason. How about you actually be honest and come out and admit what you did?
A certain small YouTuber even uploaded a video in which he says that I cannot compare the treatment of apostates who are supposed to be killed according to Islam to the treatment of Uyghur Muslims in China, because apostasy is treason, it's a crime.
Well, you Muslims believe in the apostasy law, the killing of ex-Muslims. Yes, we do. However, what is the apostasy law? When is it used? It's used in a country governed by the Sharia, Islamic law. And what is apostasy? What is it classed as? It's treason, isn't it? You committed a crime, you get punished. It's completely different to somebody just getting on with their life as you do and being imprisoned, raped, abused and tortured for simply being a member of a religion. Do not try and compare the two.
Oh really?
The first thing I would like to address is his deception. Number one, and this is for context for what I'm going to say, the video on his channel is I condemn the Uyghur genocide. That's the name of the video. Now you'd think he'd just speak about the Uyghur genocide and condemn it, yet he speaks about apostasy, he speaks about Sharia, etc. So he speaks about something completely irrelevant to the video title. Now he uses a clip from my video, which is the one that you see on screen now. Firstly, the context of this video is that the fans of the Apostate Prophet, some of them also mock the Uyghur genocide, and I show proof from Ridvan's comment section. And what's funny about this is that one person who I thought was a fan of the Apostate Prophet, who was actually criticising Apostate Prophet, actually turned out to be a Muslim. Anyway, within that video I make reference to how it's not the first time that AP fans have been silly. And I link a video and you can go and check that out if you would like. And then I also mention how Ridvan has mocked the deaths of Muslims and mocks Uyghurs. And that video can be seen there, and I tell people in the video to go and check it out if you want to. Now remember, we've already established that Ridvan's video on his channel, I condemn the Uyghur genocide, he speaks about stuff which is irrelevant to the Uyghur genocide, the Sharia, etc. So my question is, why didn't Ridvan show this or make reference to it or even show the video so people can go and see themselves what I say? They can see how I reference two videos for people to go and check. You didn't want to show that, and you can't say, oh, that's irrelevant as an excuse, because in your video titled I condemn the Uyghur genocide, you bring up stuff that's irrelevant to begin with. So you're either a hypocrite or you're deceptive. It's your choice. Furthermore, he didn't put the video title up, he didn't tell people my name. He wanted to hide that. I wonder why. He just referred to me as a certain small YouTuber. And yeah, I am small, I accept that. I've got no issue with it. My issue is, why didn't you tell people my channel name, or at least show the video and tell people to go and see for yourself to see what this guy said? It's because you do not want people to see my content. I made multiple videos on this guy demonstrating to you how he's a fraudster. He made a community post months ago now, maybe 2-3 months ago, giving ultimate proof that Islam is false. You know, that hadith about the last hour. And I did a thorough refutation of it. He stated he's going to respond to their general objections. I'm waiting. It's been 2-3 months. Where are you? He's running away from his problems, just like he's been running away from Fareed and co for like 2-3 years now. Now, he said he's going to respond to Fareed, although, you know, he said that's coming out soon, the refutation. I mean, where is it? It's been months and it's still not out, Ridwan. So in summary, before I move on to the apostasy point, the questions have to be asked. Why does Ridwan, in his I Condemn the Uyghur Genocide video, use a clip from my video, from my channel, without mentioning the video title or my channel name, in which he takes a small section from my video where I'm speaking about how you can't equate apostasy to the Uyghur Genocide? Why does he include that in his video titled I Condemn the Uyghur Genocide? He should not be speaking about apostasy at all in that video, or the Sharia at all in that video. And I'm reiterating a point from the last section. It just shows you how he undermines it. It also shows you he doesn't want people to know who I am at all. He doesn't want people to go and check my channel name, let alone the video. How do you think that looks to me, Ridwan? It looks like you're running away from me. I thought, you know, you say you know more than 90% of all Muslims about Islam. I assume you think you know more than me. So then why are you not telling people to go and check my channel? Surely you want to send your army to go and flood my comments and do what you did to the detective and to do what you did to Fareed. You're running away from your problems. You're running away from me, like you run away from Fareed, like you run away from Asadullah Ali, like you run away from Yusuf Ponders, etc. You don't like to engage honestly. You keep going, let's debate on modern day debates. Do you want to leave your wife and marry the guy? You keep going on about him all the time. Debate me, debate me. Why don't you actually act like how you claim you are? You say you know more than 90% of all Muslims. Why don't you act like it? Because you can act like the complete antithesis. It's almost as if you lied about how much knowledge you actually have.
Well, that's exactly the point. How about we make it a crime to convert to Islam? How about we make it a crime to practice Islam? How about we say, if you are a Muslim, keep it to yourself. Don't declare it publicly or else. What if we made it a crime to convert to Islam, to express that you are a Muslim and to publicly practice Islam? What if we made it punishable by death? And what if we said, well, it's a crime, and if you commit that crime, you have to deal with the consequences? Of course, I would never approve of such a thing.
So Ridwan is pulling basically the Uno reverse card, saying, no you. And perhaps I could have explained this in my original video. I didn't really see a need. But since Ridwan needs it explaining to him, despite the fact he claims he's read pretty much everything you're supposed to, despite the fact only recently, in the past couple of months, he's already reading books on Islamic law, and he had a debate with Daniel. Sorry, not debate. Oh, I'm so sorry. Interview. Oh, I got that wrong again. Q&A with Daniel Hakikachu about the Sharia, in which they obviously spoke about apostasy. He still doesn't understand it. Seems like I'm flogging a dead horse. Nevertheless, I will provide a response. The following is a segment from a long podcast which is linked in the description. I do recommend you check it out if you haven't already. And you are going to hear Ustad Tim Humble speak about the apostasy law and the wisdom behind it, as well as how you can't really compare it to a situation like Ridwan was trying to perpetuate. Like, what if it was Muslims instead of non-Muslims?
And that is the issue of apostasy. Someone being a Muslim, changing their mind effectively and leaving the religion. What's the ruling on this?
So there's no doubt that the punishment for apostasy is death. It's capital. It's a crime that is considered to be worthy of capital punishment. And I think there are a couple of things that you need to bear in mind. I think it's what really interests me about apostasy and the punishment for apostasy is who would actually have this punishment carried out upon them.
Okay.
So let's say a person decides that I no longer want to be a Muslim.
Okay.
First of all, what is the punishment that person is going to get on the day of resurrection?
It's huge.
Eternal punishment, hellfire.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all agree on that.
Yeah.
I would say having a severe punishment in this world is a significant blessing and mercy in comparison to what the punishment is in the hereafter in terms of discouraging people from going down this route. But let's keep on this topic. Individual makes that decision personally. What are they going to do? They decide, I'm going to leave this Muslim country. I can't live here anymore. They decide to leave. They privately, get on a plane. They go to a non-Muslim country and they live happily ever after until the punishment of Allah comes upon them, and that's their issue.
What if they've got family in the Muslim country? They want to remain there. They want to live their life like a normal citizen.
Okay, so they live their life like a normal citizen. But they don't publicize their beliefs. You're going to see what I'm coming to in a second, yeah?
Okay, but they're eating during Ramadan and people are saying, why? It's a difficult life to live. You have to pretend to be a Muslim.
Difficult life to live, yeah, difficult life to live. The other person publicizes it, invites other people to it, says publicly that I have renounced my religion. Like the Munafiqun used to do as well in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, where one of the phases they went through was they went through a phase of telling people that they were Muslim, and then at the end of the day they would say to the people, we've renounced our religion, in order to make other people renounce their religion. This is the one who you expect the punishment of apostasy will be carried out upon.
Okay, I want to go into two questions there. First of all, you mentioned, which me and you would both agree, that the punishment from Allah after death on the Day of Judgment is eternal hellfire for this person. How would you approach this conversation with a non-Muslim who doesn't necessarily believe in that, yet you're still advocating for this huge punishment for apostasy in this world?
I think that ultimately you have to take this discussion in the context of the whole of the religion of Islam. I don't think you can take this discussion out of the religion of Islam and the existence of God and the right of Allah to legislate. And I don't think you can just take this out of there and keep it on its own. You have to have muqaddimat. You have to make the person has to understand the existence of God, the law of God, the right of God to be worshipped alone, the crime of making a partner with God. And that has to be there. Otherwise, you're trying to have a discussion based on no foundation. There is nothing you agree upon. Because I don't believe God exists, so why is there a punishment for apostasy? That's like saying I don't believe that murder is wrong. Why is there a punishment for murder? Like at the end of the day, we have to have some kind of common ground that we stand upon.
Okay, the second question I have is that you mentioned that the person who makes a private, personal decision that I no longer believe in this religion, as long as they don't go out publicizing it, then
I don't see how the punishment would be. How would they be discovered?
That's fine.
My point in this is not actually that they shouldn't be deserving of the punishment. I believe they're deserving of it. It's actually that I believe that the person this is really targeted towards is to stop the spread of apostasy in society.
It's a bit now that you're a free vet yourself and you were previously a Christian.
Okay.
And you were living in a non-Muslim country. And then you decided that Islam is the truth. And you've gone on to publicize that and even call people to it. And imagine if that was a real Christianity.
Yeah.
Where would you be?
Where would I be? I wouldn't have announced my Islam in that country. I would have quietly made my way out to a nice Muslim country and then stood, on the minbar Yawm al-Jumu'ah and said to everyone, I've become a Muslim and I'm not going back to that country because those people are going to execute me for choosing the truth. I mean, I don't think you can compare Islam to anything else, but I do see where you're coming from. But I just personally here in this issue of apostasy, I really think that when you see the wisdom of what this does to the whole society and the severity of this crime and the severity of what it leads to and the need for deterrence, the need for retribution and the safeguard, the fact that this guy is caught and then just the punishment is carried out, that opens up to some questions. But the fact that they're given an option to recant, to repent, and they still persist with it, I think, a person, if it was the other way around in Christianity, you've got two choices. Either you die as a martyr or either you keep it quiet and get out of the country. And what did the Sahaba do in Mecca when they were under threat of being killed for choosing their religion? Some of them sacrificed themselves and some of them concealed their Islam until they could leave. Okay. I think that is reasonable when this law is publicized and known about.
As harsh as it is, I'm sorry, the treatment of apostates and critics of Islam and of polytheists and maybe even of Jews and Christians in an ideal Islamic state is harsher.
This is deception from Ridwan, and I'll tell you why. Again, the title of his video is I Condemn the Uyghur Genocide. He then speaks about stuff irrelevant to the title of his video. And then he says what's happening to apostates and critics of Islam is harsher than what happens to the Uyghurs. He's basically insinuating that non-Muslims under an Islamic rule, governed by the Sharia, just like how it was under the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the Rashidun Caliphate, would be worse than what the Uyghurs are going through. That's essentially what he is saying. He provided no evidence from Islamic texts. It's all emotion. And of course, I want to point out, in regards to polytheists, what happened upon Fath al-Makkah, what happened to the polytheists. What did the Prophet do? Homework for you, Ridwan. Who did he forgive? Despite the fact they spent the last 20 years waging war at him. What did he do? Anyway, I'm going to provide you some evidence now. Ridwan is trying to portray that Muslims are bloodthirsty and that the Sharia is bloodthirsty. Dr. Lacey Evans, in his book Islam at the Crossroads, states on page 8, the legend of fanatical Muslims sweeping through the world and forcing Islam at the point of the sword upon conquered races is one of the most fantastically absurd myths that historians have ever accepted. Who was the one that brought the Sharia? It was the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Leslie Hazelton, in her book The First Muslim, says the parallels between Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Jesus, peace be upon him, are striking. Both were impelled by a strong sense of social justice. Both emphasized unmediated access to the divine. Both challenged the established power and structure of their times. In the Kingfisher History of Encyclopedia, it says they were tolerant and did not force conversion to Islam. Many people converted because Muslims were seen as genuine liberators. And that reminds me of a quote I saw from a book called The Church of the East, where Christians in Byzantine were praying that the Ishmaelites, that are Muslims, would come and free them. Ridwan, why would they come and ask for freedom if the Muslims were barbarians, that the Sharia was barbaric like you're trying to perpetuate? Here is the prayer over here, a Christian prayer from 630. God, lead the sons of Ishmael to us from the south to free us from the hand of the Byzantines. Why would they do that, Ridwan? Ridwan is clearly emotional. He provided no evidence from Islamic texts. He speaks about in an ideal Islamic state. Look at what life was like under the Rashidun Caliphate. Someone that our family knows, a non-Muslim, remarked to my father that if there was a country today governing like the Rashidun Caliphate did, like Abu Bakr, Umar, may Allah be pleased with them both, etc., that he would go and move there. That's a non-Muslim saying that. And he's not a Christian or a Jew, by the way. The fact of the matter is this. If you are a non-Muslim living in an Islamic state, you conform to the laws just as you conform to the laws of the land that you live in now. The punishments for the crimes are harsher. Yes, like death penalty for murder, death penalty for adultery. You can either get lashed or killed for rape. It's up to the juries to decide. These punishments, though, act as deterrents. And if you actually look at countries which implement these laws, although they don't implement Sharia properly and fully, look at where the laws are in place, rates of crime are low. It works. So once again, Ridvan just made a baseless claim with no evidence, full of emotion. You can call it the appeal to emotion fallacy. Considering this is the last video, more than likely, I'm going to make on the Apostate Prophet, this is a sincere message to his fans, the last time I will address them, more than likely. What are you guys doing? Like, seriously. You know, this isn't a game. Islam isn't a game. If it's true and you die upon the path you are on, rejecting and rejecting and rejecting, where are you going to go? And on that day, when you're going to answer for your deeds, I promise you, you will regret it. I'm a Muslim and I fear that day. I think about all the wrong I have done and I see it like a mountain that will fall on top of me at any point. And I think about all the good I have done, and it's not that much. And even then I'm sat there and I'm thinking, will this be accepted? So I live a life where I'm trying to better myself each day for the sake of God. And it gives me contentment. It gives me happiness. Yet you guys are hiding behind your screens, laughing and bashing a religion you don't believe in. And when that day comes and you're going to realise how wrong you are, the amount of regret you're going to feel is immense, but there will be nothing you can do. That day on Yawm al-Qiyamah, you'll throw Apostate Prophet under the bus. You're going to blame him. It's all him. All the support you're giving now, the amount of blame that all of you are going to give on him is 1,000,000 times more than the support you give him. You'll blame him. Now, you guys don't believe in Yawm al-Qiyamah. You don't believe in the Day of Judgment. But just think about it for a second. Just think. What would happen if it was true? And all I would ask you guys to do is to fact check Apostate Prophet. I've done it many times. Fareed has done it. Islamic Calling has done it. Detective Will has done it. Asadullah Ali has done it. Many people have done it. And he's proven again and again and again to be a fraudster, a liar, a scammer, ignorant, a hypocrite. Why are you trusting him to tell you about the religion of Islam? If you're fair, you're honest and you're open-minded, go and study and ask the right questions to the right people. Okay? And if you do that with the right intentions and you're sincere, who knows? You very may well end up becoming a Muslim. And then, you know, you can strive and you can work towards attaining paradise. May Allah forgive us all and grant us paradise. And to any Apostate Prophet fan watching who's actually made it this far, which in and of itself is a challenge, may Allah guide you to Islam. So again, for your own sake, be sincere, be honest, be kind. Don't act like the way you guys do, mocking in the comments, because that's how Muslims respond back. They respond the way you start the conversation, by mocking. And if you are a fan of the Apostate Prophet, we already presume you're a certain sort of person, because we've seen from experience. So just be honest. State you're a fan, but you're open-minded. Okay? Now, I've shown you in this video categoric proof of his ignorance, of his lies. And there is a link in the description from my website. And you can see more examples of how he's been exposed yet again as someone who knows nothing about Islam. So how then does his statement of knowing more about Islam than 90% of all Muslims make sense? It doesn't, does it? Come on, be honest. There's a contradiction there. I now want to play a short recitation from the Quran where it speaks about Judgment Day and close friends being enemies to one another except the righteous. The first part, close friends being enemies, you may regard the Apostate Prophet as a friend, directly or indirectly, whether you know him or not. But what's going to happen on that Judgment Day? He'll be an enemy to you. He'll throw you under the bus, just as you'd throw him under the bus. You'll blame it all on him. But ultimately, you're the one who keep watching his content. You're the one who didn't listen. So whose fault will it be if you end up in the hellfire?
الذين آمنوا بآياتنا وكانوا مسلمين
وفيها ما تشتهيه الأنفس وتلذ الأعين وأنتم فيها خالدون.
So we are at the end of this video. Some of you may be aware that this is the last time I am making a video, more than likely on the Apostate Prophet. I'm done with the guy now. I realise, looking back at how long I've spent making videos on him and how much time I've spent, that it's a waste of time. You know, I'm already simply demonstrating the fact he's a liar, he's a hypocrite, he's ignorant, demonstrating that which is already well known. Just remember, guys, that this guy, Apostate Prophet, is the greatest, he's seen as the greatest critic of Islam. The greatest critic. He's an ex-Muslim leader. And look at him, look at how pathetic he is. And I've demonstrated that, haven't I, in this video. You've seen how he can't even get quotations right. He mocks the death of Hajj pilgrims and finds it funny, saying it's dark humour. And what you thought, maybe he regretted it, he's laughing as he's talking about the joke, which means still today he finds it funny. He panders towards his Christian audience and his Hindu audience because that's where all the money comes from. Evidently, he is money driven. He has no value for truth and honesty and good logical discourse. He instead employs tactics of satire, mocking, joking, and you've seen how he is dishonest, how he's ignorant, how he's a hypocrite. Again, I would like to reiterate to refer to the description for more information, where you will also see a link. That link is to my website, where you'll see instances of him getting refuted again and again and again. I think there's 60, 70 videos, something like that. I have to ask myself, how can a man who claims he's so knowledgeable and knows more about Islam than 90% of all Muslims, claims he read everything, make so many, what he would say are mistakes? And the people responding to him, he would see himself as intellectually superior to them. After all, he himself says he knows more about Islam than 90% of all Muslims. So how then, on the one hand, can he claim that, but also get refuted by countless people and exposed as a fraudster and a liar? There's a contradiction there. This video touched on many aspects, from pointing out how he can't even get the simple things right, to showing how he's a horrible person, to showing how he clearly cares about money, and how arrogant he is. But that is the end of this video. Be sure to check the description, and Apostate Prophet, you can relax now, I'm finished with you. Instead, I'm going to focus on producing more beneficial content for my channel. Thank you all for watching. Again, be sure to check the description, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.